All right.
I'm close to home.
It's my book club this week. I chose Dark Knight, A True Batman Story by Paul Dini and Eduardo Risso. He's doing the lines and the colors, which I think helps a lot because I thought the art in this was incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very real story. So having this kind of style works really well.
And the style is he uses a kind of real style. Like he uses very almost like not watercolors, almost like colored pencil style.
Yeah, I was going to say watercolor.
Yeah, when it's like real people and like real parts of the story, and then when it starts to get darker, you see his like more harsh lines.
And all like the Batman characters are kind of a little more cartoony.
It's like the kind of art you see when like they're putting out like a coming soon architecture thing, and you see the art style of the people walking around a place. It's very much in that, but a little more detailed.
The only thing I think I would have probably liked better is if the Batman characters that show up were designed like their animated series counterparts.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been an extra layer to add on. That would have been nice.
I do. Yeah, I don't think it takes away anything, but I think you might be right. Yeah.
I like that many of them, their appearances are never consistent.
That's
we
true.
see the Joker, and the Joker
is
always
his
changing because
imagination.
the Joker has multiple visual interpretations when you're that steeped in it.
Yeah.
Most of these characters usually appear in multiple forms. I think the only one, like even Batman himself, is not always looking the same.
Yeah.
At one point, he eventually looks like Michael Keaton.
Did you like the Sandman episode they pitched for Batman the Animated
Holy
Series?
shit, dude!
Yeah.
That is that would have been the best Batman episode.
Never heard of that before.
I haven't either.
But that I can see why that didn't get made at that time.
But it's awesome,
for sure.
Man.
Oh yeah.
So basically,
It's basically in a way Batman contemplating, like the Batman animated series contemplating the idea of suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, dang, I understand why that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So we should explain what this book is.
Sure.
We haven't yet. It is the true story of Paul Dini's mugging.
It's an autobiographical comic book.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's a true story of Paul Dini's mugging, and he talks about how working on Batman the Animated Series almost helped him through it.
Man, I didn't.
And the characters of Batman and Joker and Poison Ivy.
I knew what this book was about, but I had no idea it was so personal.
Yeah.
And talking about his cutting and his alcoholism.
When it got to the cutting,
Lord.
Yeah.
When it got to the cutting,
Yeah.
Specifically that
The day after, the same night as the Emmys that he won.
that he was like, I cut myself with the Emmy.
Yeah.
yeah,
That is.
And I read that, I was
shit.
like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was honestly, when I was reading this, because obviously the mugging was like the catalyst for the story.
Yeah.
But when it got to that girl he had a thing for, and she pretty much stands him up for something completely else. Well, he wins that Emmy, and he's cutting himself with the trophy. I'm thinking,
What?
Wait,
And,
did this actually happen?
I really feel for him because he's like, what didn't she see in me? As he's cutting parts that he doesn't like about himself.
Yeah.
And I totally relate to something
Same.
like that.
Yeah.
Like it really hit me.
Definitely.
Yep.
And so when I didn't realize how much I would relate to this story.
Yeah.
I don't
when
think
I
any
read
of
it.
us did.
Yeah.
And it really enhanced it when he's talking to Vivian, and his thing is like, so are you seeing anyone? And you just feel his heart break.
I thought we were exclusive.
Oh
to each
no!
other.
When she got to, she looked at him and she's like, "So are you seeing one?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've been there before. That is not fun."
Or Dwayne McDuffie's a little bit when he comes up but when he's leaving the office after his mugging, and Dwayne McDuffie says, "Were they black?"
Yeah.
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 Damn.
Sorry.
And he shakes his hand, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow, Dwayne McDuffie, man, was top notch."
Yeah.
I love seeing Alan Burnett and Bruce
Dude, it's
Timm.
really cool just seeing like day-to-day operations of like it's almost like boring because it's just like business meetings. Like, yeah, you got to write that Joker scene. It's it's really cool.
I sorry, real quick on the black thing. I just wanted to say, like, I think it's really important, and I appreciate. I can't even imagine like being in the situation and the details you pick up on. But that he doesn't just say yes.
Yeah.
He says one of them was. I don't know about the other one. I barely got to look at him. He got
Yeah.
behind me.
Yeah.
And
He
that
doesn't
other
just paint that like he had to be.
That other one, if you go back, is steeped in more shadow than the other one.
Right. Yeah.
Because he didn't see any features.
Right. And I think that's really cool that like he didn't just go, "Yep, two black guys."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a minor thing, but I think it's an important thing.
It is important.
Definitely.
And the fact that it was Dwayne McDuffie is equally as important.
Absolutely.
Because like Jesus, guys.
He's a champion.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and this was going around like he needed to write Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Just called Batman Masks.
Just called Batman Mask.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we're doing a Batman love story. It's like, we never get to do a love story on the show, so let's do the movie.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
And it was really sad to see, like, at the time, like, I can't write Batman because I don't believe in Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, that is, like...
He talks about it, like, why weren't you
And that's
there?
something, like... Honestly, that's why I love superheroes so much, because, like, I see how dark the world is, and I look up at the comic books, and I'm like, if these people can be great, then why can't I be great? In the face of adversity and stuff. And
Also-
I'm like, this shit's really happening to people,
I
man.
love how when he's in the hospital, his sister comes to visit him. She's like, "Oh man, you must have so much new material for Batman now." He's like, "When I needed him the most, he wasn't there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can I write Batman? How?
It's really interesting seeing Batman's like, you could have done this, you could have done this, you could have
That
done
was
this.
so good.
And then Joker coming in and saying, yeah, or you could just lay around and do nothing. It's like the two bits of his
it's his angel and his demon almost,
Yeah.
yeah.
Scarecrow in the in the doctor's
Arkham-
office.
Oh, I knew you'd show up eventually with
Yeah,
fear.
with when he said he had a fear of needles, and then it was of course the. Now I finally figure out know where, because I always thought the Arkham Asylum designer for Scarecrow was the scariest version of Scarecrow, especially with the fear gas needles. And then when he showed up with the needle hands, I'm like, oh, now
Yeah.
I get it.
And Paul Dini obviously wrote Arkham Asylum and
Yeah.
Arkham City.
Yeah.
Did he write Arkham Knight or no?
He didn't write Arkham Knight.
I think
No.
he like helped, but he definitely was not like he's not the guy like he was in the
Yeah.
other games.
No, he didn't write the script.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
Probably should have.
I like Arkham Knight.
It's not better than those two other games.
I like
true.
I like Arkham Knight as well, but I have to say City is chef gifts.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
Ryan, I've been stealing that from you lately.
No, I know you have. It's okay.
Like this book was so visceral.
For real,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
honest. Like you know, so Ryan, you mentioned honest. Like I
Yeah.
did not expect it to be as honest as it was.
In many ways, it's very hard to have a critiquing kind of discussion because it's someone's personal life and
Yeah.
account.
Yeah.
This isn't a piece of fiction that we're allowed. In some elements, it is, like when he's engaging in his imagination with the villains and things like
But
that.
that's what makes this book better than just an auto.
Oh, of course,
He could
yeah,
have just wrote a
it's-
book.
yeah.
But he's conflicted with his own thoughts about the characters that he writes.
It's
and
almost-
Batman's telling him how to be a better person.
Yeah, it's almost like when Super Gods came out and it was a Grant Morrison autobiography that turned into a history of comic books.
Yeah.
Like what'd you do, buddy?
Yeah.
Do you have that book?
I don't even know exactly the point I'm trying to make when I say this. It's certainly not a critique on Paul Dini when I say this, but there's an amount of I think we're all our worst critic, especially in hindsight.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
there's an
yeah.
amount of like
Oh, yeah.
putting himself so far down that I'm not saying like, I'm sure like a lot of this was very true for him. I'm saying personally his accounts of himself, I'm like, maybe it just feels like he's so hard on himself. And I'm like, I'm not saying it's even inaccurate. I'm just saying like it's hard even to do things like this because you are your cruelest critic of yourself in
Yeah.
hindsight.
And I especially love how they did the art when he's in school. How he's how he's drawn in negative space.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
Two things that hit me the hardest in this book. The first one is
And
like a
then he
blink
gets
and
more
miss it.
colored as he gets home.
Yeah, but one of them was a blink and a miss it part. It was just two panels where he was talking about his childhood, how he would show his parents his writing and his stories, and then his parents would get upset and mad at him for how disenfranchised he was with his schoolwork.
Yeah.
That hasn't happened to me. In a way, that happened to me with my own dad, where he would be, yes, do your creative thing, but and then when I was trying to.
I cannot tell you how many times my parents said, why can't you retain school like you retain whatever this is?
Yeah. So that hit me hard. But another thing that hit me really hard was near the end when him and his sister were at the record store and a gentleman comes up and says, "Do you work for Warner Brothers?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, well I do Batman, but I have worked on Tiny Toons." And he's like, "Oh man," and he was telling
his
him
wife
how
loved it and stuff,
his
right?
wife, who's in the hospital, who was getting treated for cancer, loved the Tiny Toons, and they're like, "Hey, thank you for working on that stuff." And then
And his sister,
as they were leaving, the sister says, "And you say it's not worth it."
Yeah.
That line.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? Is it that it's not worth it, or is that it doesn't mean anything?
No.
to anyone?
I think she says like, "And you said it wasn't."
I'm
worth
asking.
it."
It's sitting in front of you. Like, what is the line in that
You're
moment?
right. I can look at it.
Yeah. Or whatever she says. To
Yeah, she says something like,
Obviously, like it is the probably the most impactful
takes a
moment for
Lazarus
Paul Dini
bath.
too.
Yeah.
I was gonna bring that
Lazarus
up.
bath.
Yeah.
I got
That's
a
awesome.
scene right here. Hold on, real quick. Batman's like, you should go to the hospital, and he's like, thanks, but I used the Lazarus pit. Yeah, I know there's no Lazarus pit in the Batcave, but tonight there is.
Yeah.
But the reason why I want to talk about it is, as I said earlier in the show, I had a really, really bad day on Friday.
Good luck to you guys, because the guy's wife has cancer, and he says, and the sister says, and you said it didn't matter.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
That,
That's good stuff.
That part right there, just the interaction with him.
If Vivian only wants him for Steven Spielberg,
That bitch. But that part hit me really hard because, like I said, I had a really bad day on Friday. I had a bad week, and Friday was just a bad. I needed to read that because it made me think of all the interactions this show has made with other people.
Yep.
Like that night, I was talking to Robert Galvin of the Comic Book G Spot. The day before, I was talking to Michael Carls of Downright Nerdy. All the people, even today, talking with my mom and my sister, they're saying, "I am so proud that you got this panel for LA Comic Con." They could not be happier.
we have a panel for LA Comic Con.
Oh, shush you!
Oh, you didn't hear the news?
I as I was reading it, I thought it was very serendipitous that we were doing this book club on a week where both of you wound up with rejections.
Yeah.
For your creative works. Because this is it's not necessarily a message vessel for like all these specific things, but it is in many ways Paul Dini just trying to get out an idea of like, you know, yes, encouraging you to pursue your creative avenues and everything, but also to recognize like you know, where you have to be your own champion,
Yeah.
where you have to stand up for yourself and recognize, you know, when you have to overcome your own. Get out of your own way. I think it's Paul Dini's biggest thing in this is get out of your own way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't go back to writing Batman Masks because he was in his own
And even
way.
before that, he'd make all these excuses for why he wouldn't engage in other things. Like that's what he's very, you know, knocking himself over is like, you know, you go home and you'd do this.
Yeah.
You know, you'd push people away for this. You'd pursue these things that you knew were nothing for this.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because you cared more about how it looked.
Oh, we get to see we get to see Arlene, who's the inspiration for Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Because they were really good friends.
Yes.
I was happy to see that.
Yeah,
And-
it's really
and-
cool.
And it's cool because, you know, this mugging happened in like 1993 or something, right?
Something
It's
like
like,
that, yeah.
and like he talks like, yeah, 25 years later, you know, I'm married, I'm happy, you know.
I write video games, TV shows.
And it's like, you'll
he-
get there in the end.
And he talks about it as like, you know, sometimes I go months without thinking about it. Sometimes it's all I can think about.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I remember
Like trauma, yeah.
I can go months without ever thinking about it, and then I'll have days where I remember every single detail.
Yeah.
I have I'm not going to go too far into it. I have a friend who she was mugged at gunpoint, and she's talked
Do I know
about
this person?
probably in passing.
Okay.
But she's, you know, been pretty open about like her struggles with like that's a trauma you just don't walk away from, and I think this book translates a lot of that really well to the point where I'm actually going to contact her, and I don't know how big of a Batman fan she is, but I'm going to be like, I think maybe you want to check this out.
Yeah.
I still think you can get a lot out of it without actually being a Batman.
I think
I
so
think
Oh,
so
yeah.
too. I just want to find that like she's not the kind of person who's a friend with me because of nerd stuff.
Yeah.
So I got to find like my avenue of like,
Animaniacs.
hey, you know, where in the spectrum of comics do you
Yeah.
fall? How often do you pick this stuff up?
Do you know the actor Christian Bale? Well, he was in a motion picture series called The Batman Movies.
Yeah.
I have a book for you.
I again, like I find it hard to critique this in many ways,
Yeah,
but
especially because all of us seem to have resonated with it
Yeah.
so viscerally.
I think there's aspects of this that can touch to anybody's just human experience of like I don't know a single person who doesn't at some point look at themselves and be disappointed in some amount of their behavior either
yeah.
in the
Oh,
past
yeah.
or present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean like in that sense it kind of speaks to all of us, whether it's like, you know, him knocking himself for the alcoholism or the jaded way he'd engage with coworkers or the pursuit of relationships that he knew were meaningless and fickle and he just did for the outward appearance, or for the way he self-bashed his own appearance and what he was to himself, or for just dealing with the trauma and depression of its own.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different avenues that he's able to kind of drive down and touch into.
Yeah.
And he weaves the narrative very well as he goes through it, like the way that things from the past will come up when they do.
And I like, there's a part where he's like, all right, guys, I know you really want to hear all about how the Batman animated series was created. This is not that book. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right,
Let's
yeah,
get
yeah.
sad.
He even says like that's another book.
Yeah.
There's a whole book that can be written about that series. This
Hell
is
yeah.
not what this is.
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm not
proud of you, Paul.
Well, I'm glad that he sets the record straight right off the bat. It's not one of those things where halfway through you realize, oh, this isn't about the anime series. Why did I pick this up? I want to read about the anime series. Straight up, he's like, this is not about that. Of course, it comes up because that was a big part of his life, but this is the story of the mugging and the aftermath of said mugging.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this book a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
All right, shall we get out of here?
What about the book club next week?
One of my favorite pieces is also when he says, this is a little thing that I kept, an idea from Batman Beyond about the Joker.
Oh, yeah.
He puts him into a cave where he'd know the Joker was there.
Oh,
He'd
yeah,
just throw
yeah.
him food sometimes, but you could always hear him laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's how he shut out that, like, the Joker as a representation of the, like, not necessarily I even think the negative mindset, but a representation of the encouragement to embrace his
Dark side.
His not even his dark side, but his self loathing and his self-destruction. Yeah, because he'd be like, you can sit here with all these things. It's more enticing than going to the negative side. It's like, do this because you deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve to just be here. Whether it's the like you deserve to be shit on or it's you deserve to enjoy this thing. That was the voice that the Joker represented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here.